Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, so I am so excited to be bringing you some more steamy romance recommendations. But I do have a subtitle to this, right? Because while I do love to do spicy, steamy, raunchy, whatever the word you want to use, smut. I love giving you smut recommendations. As I've shared in quite a few videos lately, I'm getting a little bit put out with spice with no heart behind it, or spice because the author feels like that's what people need and only what they need. It has just gotten a little bit old to me. So I'm really searching for more of that like emotional connection before there is steam. That's not to say that none of these maybe have like a one night stand that then becomes more, but for the most part, I think I only have one of those that is that anyway. But for the most part, I want them to be books that by the time there is sex happening, there's a really emotional connection. And so the sex feels like it's building the relationship, not just, ooh, we must insert a sex scene now because it will please my readers, right? So that is what I'm bringing you today. I have 10 recommendations for steamy and emotional romance, okay? And one I want to start with is actually the one that I mean, like, it's a one night stand, but even from the one night stand, the connection was so intense that, you know, there had to be more for this couple. And this is a recent read of mine that was Soft Flannel Hank by Eliza MacArthur. And this is the first book in a series. I can't wait for another one. It's supposed to come in February or March, I think. But this is one I've recommended quite a few times lately, and it was recommended to me by Crystal of Crystal's Bookish Life, and I just really, really liked it so much, particularly the hero. He is a sensitive, sweet, he's been hurt before by love. He is in his, I think he's in his early 40s, single guy, just so like, he's been beaten by the world. He's in therapy to help with his mental health because he hasn't always wanted to stick around, if you get my meaning. And then he meets this woman and they have this great connection and they end up having a one night stand. And even from this one night stand, they have some of the most, they don't fuck on this one night stand. They're like making love even in this first time together, because I honestly feel like Hank can't do anything else. I really don't. And then, you know, one of Hank's like damage, one of his things is that women always leave him. Not just a romantic partner, but his daughters had to leave him. His mother left him due to like illness. So he's just someone who's been abandoned continually. So, you know, having a one night stand where he's not going to see the woman again isn't something that he would consider, like, he just wouldn't consider that. But there's just something about this connection he has with this woman. But then when it turns out that she's on the run from someone, well, Hank can't help but get involved with it. And yeah, this one, as I've said before, this one also has paranormal elements. This heroine is a witch. She's on the run from some vampires. And Hank actually knows about these things because, as I've also said before, this is a bit of a Charlie Swan like take on him. You know, instead of Charlie Swan, it's Hank Dove is his name. And this is in the, you know, same area as Twilight. And you'll see as you read it, there are some parallels that go along with it. But this Hank is very aware of the paranormal aspects of the world. He's not like fully versed in them, but he knows about them. So, highly recommend this. I think you'll find great emotion from Hank. The heroine does get a little bit annoying at some points, I'll say that, but Hank is the shining star in this, and I mean, yeah, especially if you love like a lumberjack, you love a big dude, you love, he's got dad bod a little bit, but he also has long hair that he like has to put in a ponytail sometimes. Like, I'm so here for every part of Hank that this was a great time for me. All right. We also have another recent release, and this one is definitely on the like lowish side of the steam, but that's because this is A Marriage in Trouble and A Second Chance for these two. which is usually what a marriage in trouble is, because if the marriage isn't going to be done with, then, sorry, the gold is beautiful, but my ring lights don't like it. But yeah, King of Greed. So this is a recent favorite read of mine. I really liked this. And this is about Alessandra and Dominic. And Alessandra Davenport is just tired of not seeing her husband. She feels like she's a trophy wife and there's nothing else happening anymore. She used to love this man, does love this man, but it hurts so badly to feel like she's been pushed aside by his ambition. And so at the beginning of this book, when Dominic misses their flight for their 10th anniversary getaway, they're supposed to have a weekend away from everything, and he's late. She's like, this is really it. I've put up with this. I've listened to your excuses. It's done. And she files for divorce. And this wakes Dominic up in a really brutal fashion. You know, everything he's done, every move he's made, he thought he was doing for Alessandra to make their life better, to treat her like the queen he sees her as. But the thing is, in doing that, he took her away from the thing she wanted most, which was him. She's loved him since they were poor, and she will always love him, but she doesn't feel like she's in a marriage with him anymore, right? So this leads them to have to make, you know, he needs to make some changes if he wants to keep his woman. So because this was a marriage in trouble, you know, these two, their sex life was never what was in trouble. So this book is really about Dominic winning back her heart and her trust more than him needing to seduce her, because he knows that she knows that he can pleasure her body. She needs to trust him, not to put business in front of her again. So this isn't a raunchy one. I would honestly say, like, this whole series from her so far has been around like the 2.5 on the spice scale for me. And I've loved it because there has been great connection between all of her characters. For me, that's what I felt. So I really recommend, you could start with King of Wrath. I'm just recommending King of Greed because it is the most recent one I read and loved it. I mean, I really did. I loved it a lot. All right. Next, we have a historical, which I happily just reread recently. And it reminded me how poignant and beautiful the sex scenes in this book are. And I just adore this hero so much. He's in my top, like, 3, I believe. I believe he's in my top 3 or 4 heroes of all time. And that is Ian McKenzie. I just can't get away from those Scots, y'all. You know, Jamie's my number 1, but Ian's really close up there. But this is the first book in the McKenzie's series. It used to be called the Victorian Decadence, but you'll also see it now as the McKenzie's series, McKenzie and McBride series. It's gone through some iterations, but this is the first one. And this one is about Lord Ian McKenzie, who is seen as being mad. He spent some time in an asylum, which he was put in by his father for reasons, but it seems that he would be kind of on the spectrum. He maybe has like Asperger's. He has some neurodivergence about him that makes people uncomfortable because they don't know how to act around him. He doesn't act the way other people do, and so that makes him kind of a pariah and is seen as mad and scary, right? But in the beginning of this book, he meets Beth, who she is a widow of some means. She's been left some money by a woman she used to caretake for. And she, in the beginning of this, is kind of sort of promised to someone else. And this is someone that Ian does business with. And he knows that this guy is not going to be a good husband. He's probably in it for the money. And so he decides to go meet this person, meet Beth, and decide upon meeting her if he wants to tell her who this guy really is or just let her marry him. It's a very interesting scenario. But he sees Beth and he is instantly hooked on her. Now, this could be considered insta-lust. It could. But the way that Ian goes about it and the way that Beth feels about him, it never feels the same insta-lust that you would like see now, but it is very clear that he first falls for how beautiful she is. He's just like, she's the prettiest woman I've ever seen. I must have her. But, you know, Ian's not the smoothest with the ladies. That's not where his talents lie. And there's also a lot of impediments to them being together. I mean, to start off, like, she's engaged to someone else very briefly. And then also some of his family members don't think that he could be a husband and that maybe Beth is a gold digger, even though she already has money. And he's the fourth son of a duke. So, you know, it's not like but he does have a lot of money because their dukedom is pretty extensive, but still. So yeah, and when we get to the physical side of this, he is so worshipful of her. And it's hard for Beth because she finds great pleasure with Ian, like so much. But because of how Ian is, Ian doesn't believe that he can ever love anyone. He doesn't really understand love. And, you know, he can only feel like he can make Beth happy. And to make Beth happy, she wants love. But when you read it, I'm probably doing a horrible job explaining this, but it's one of my favorite books in the way that Ian does love her. And it becomes very clear to everybody but him how much he loves her. It's very beautiful. There is also a bit of a murder mystery going on in this one as well. There's always something going on in these, but 6-star book, one of my favorites of all time. And rereading this, there was even a beautiful scene. Let's see if I can find it pretty easily, or if it's, I have this annotated, like I said, because I annotated it for a friend. Because there was this quote in here that even made me think about what people say about, there was a quote that made me think about how I feel about spice in books. Right here. Okay. So this is Ian to Beth. So he says, I can feel desire and wanting. I find you beautiful and I want you. And she warmed up to him. I must say you are quite good for my pride, but when you don't desire a woman, you feel nothing for her? Nothing at all, he says. And that, Ian McKenzie, is why I say you'll break my heart. His gaze strayed out the window to a cloud-strewn Paris. Wanting is not enough? Desire so strong you'll do anything to fulfill it? It's lovely in the moment, but in the long view, I think no. So that's her, you know, she's been married before. She had a good marriage. She loved the man. He died way too young. And so she knows what love feels like. And she's starting to feel that for him, but him saying he can't feel love, but he feels desire and attraction to her, she's saying that's not enough. I need love. And honestly, it really sums up how I feel about smut in books lately, is if it's only the wanting and the needing to fuck someone, it feels empty. And that's what I feel like was verbalized so well in that little quote right there. So, highly recommend The Madness of Lord Ian McKenzie. And the audiobooks are excellent if you can get those. All right, then we have Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. This is a 6-star read of mine this year too. A lot of these ones are going to be 6-star reads because obviously those are the ones that I like the spice as much, because that's a big part of my rating. It is, because again, I want smut in books. I want sex in books. I just want it to feel it. I want to feel it. So this one is one that also starts with a one-night stand. So this one does get off to like they are instantly attracted to each other. They want to bang. This is an older man, younger woman. He's an ex-bull rider, and he's going to be a farrier at Sugarland Creek. Now, when he gets approached by, I just totally forgot her name. It just totally left my head. Noah. That's why it left my head, because Noah and Fisher is the couple. She approaches him at a like rodeo event and like asks him to have a one-night stand with her, and he's just kind of like, wow, this hot woman like wants me. And so he's very flattered by that, and he is able actually by like the end of that interaction to realize that, okay, it seems like she's the daughter of the man that I'm about to work for. So he knows that. And so after their one-night stand, which at the end of it, she is leaving because she, you know, has got to get out of Dodge, and she sees his wallet on the counter. So she's snooping, and she realizes his name and realizes that this is her ex-boyfriend's dad. So she ghosts out of there. So they both know who each other is, but they don't know how to deal with it, right? So he knows he's going to see her when he goes to his first day of work. So he's trying to contact her. She doesn't want to talk to him because she had this great experience with him, but like, this is my ex-boyfriend's dad and he hates his dad. So this can't be good and I can't have anything to do with it. But then that means she gets blindsided when he shows up at his first day of work. But like, she didn't give him a chance. She didn't give him a chance to explain. He was trying to warn her. So then once it all gets laid out on the table, she says, the reason I didn't call you is I know you're my ex-boyfriend's dad. And he's like, well, I was trying to warn you. So they actually work kind of directly together at the farm, or at the, I mean, it's like a cowboy resort, but it also has the farm, and she trains horses there and he's the farrier there. So they work together, and she is kind of like bitchy to him in the beginning because she's trying to keep him at arm's length, and he's like, we don't need to do that. Like, it's okay. Like, that night was amazing, and if we're not going to have any more, which is probably best, that's good. Because also, Fisher, he realizes how much his son still is into her and actually wants to get back together with her. And so he's like, he wants to fix his relationship with his son. That's why he moved to the area. So he's like, going after the girl that my son wants is not a good way to fix this relationship. So it puts them at an impasse. And as their feelings for each other grow and strengthen, and they get closer to each other and they learn more about each other, this passion between them just builds and builds. And eventually they kind of start having like a friends with benefits scenario, but they both want more because they realize that they could be it for each other, but are they willing to hurt his son to do it? So I love this couple. I do think that in this one, like, again, we do get some spice pretty early, and then it doesn't take them too long to like give in to stuff along the way. But I love their relationship so much, and I just really felt their connection, that I understood why these two were so intoxicated with each other. And yeah, I loved that. And there are audiobooks out for both this and the prequel to the series, so definitely recommend this series to you. The third one is coming in January, or the second, technically the second, but like the third one. The prequel is almost a full-size book, I would say that. So this is even one that like has a map in here. It's really cool. I love this. So yeah, highly recommend that one. Of course, I highly recommend all of them. You know me, I end up saying that a bunch. Okay, then we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is one I read this summer, and I'd seen so many of my friends loving it. And this is also a one-night stand. I guess I had more of these than I thought. This is a one-night stand and an accidental pregnancy. And this couple, yeah, they meet at a Halloween party, and they actually both have a disability. She has a hand that didn't fully like develop correctly, so she has like a tiny hand, and he is an amputee on one of his legs. And so they are like, I think they both are pirates for Halloween. I think that's what happens. And so like he has his like peg leg, right? He has a like wood design over his prosthetic, and she is wearing like a like hook on her hand. I believe that's the setup, that they both are pirates. But they have this great connection, and they're able to like talk so easily with each other because so many people are like awkward around their disabilities if they know, and they're able to just be so honest with that. So they end up having a one-night stand, and she doesn't get his information, and he doesn't ask because he's too shy to ask. He just thought this woman was so amazing, but he's like, she probably doesn't want any more from me because, you know, I'm like, this was a one-night stand. Well, sure enough, a couple weeks later, she discovers that she's pregnant, and she honestly has to decide if she wants to keep this baby because of her disability. You know, she wants to have a child, but she's like, would I be a disservice to my baby if I don't, like, if I'm not like fully whole? That's how she feels. But anyway, she doesn't hesitate. She does have to find out who this guy is fully, because she didn't get his full name or his number or anything. So she goes through her friends to find him, and it turns out that it's her friend or sister. Like, I don't remember the relationship, but either way, he's an ex-boyfriend to like his friend's like sister, I think, is how it like played out. But And so she meets up with him and tells him that she's pregnant, and he immediately is like, are you serious? Because he didn't think he could have children. Because of the way that led to him losing his leg, it had to do with like, I believe it was a type of cancer, and so he didn't think that his junk was working well. He didn't think that he could have children. So he immediately is like, yes, let's do it. Let me be as involved as you'll let me be. Come live with me so we can raise this kid together. So they now become roommates, basically, who are going to be raising a baby together. But they're like, we shouldn't get involved. That'll be complicated. What if it doesn't work out? And then we can't be friends to take care of our baby. So they make a lot of excuses for why they can't be together. But this is a book that starts with a one-night stand. It becomes a very slow burn because they both are very shy people. Like, it's not my, like, totally favorite quality in people, but they both are just such kind, good people, and they don't want to mess anything up. They want the best for their baby. They want the best for each other, and so they really push it off a while. But I thought it was so sweet, and yeah, I loved the disability representation in this book, and I love this kind of accidental pregnancy. Like, I do. I love them so much. When nobody lied about anything, everyone's excited for the baby to be here. It's just, oh, I wasn't expecting to have a baby with this person. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed this, and I think you will too. And I think that it has a very beautiful build to their relationship. All right. Then we have an romance. Here we have The Quarterback by Steph Bohrer. So this actually is book 2 in there's currently only 2 books in it. I haven't read The Jock yet. I want to. I'm saving it, okay? Steph Bohrer's books usually wreck me, so I'm saving it. But this one is a best friend's dad romance. So it's kind of cool. So I know, and this is what I know about the first one. In the first one, there's a couple that ends up getting together. And one of the sons is Nick's son, and he thinks that he's straight. He actually was married until recently. The wife didn't approve of their son being gay, and he ends up, I believe, divorcing her because of that, to be there for his son. And then there's Colton, who is on the team with Nick's son's boyfriend is who is in a couple, and so they are NFL players together, or no, they're college football players together. And so now that the two are dating, that puts Nick and Colton around each other all the time, and they actually end up being like 2 spare wheels. I know that's weird to say. They end up being like 2 third wheels who find each other, and when those two go off on a vacation together, they're going to be gone for a while. These two, or they go somewhere for the summer. I'm messing all this up. But anyway, Colton and Nick are left alone together. And then Colton gets injured. And because his friends are gone, Nick is there to help take care of him. So this has some caretaking in it. And both of them have always thought they were straight until feelings. And I always love how Steph Bohrer does this. It makes me so happy how he does curiosity in his, and how, a gay awakening happens in his books, and it just feels so good. And the sex that happens in his romances is so emotional. I can't even tell you. His are so sweet. They feel so good, and his characters are always so hesitant and kind, and they just want to just lavish attention on their partner. But for them, they're both really nervous about this. And so, is it just going to be for the summer? Is it just going to be while he's injured? Or are they going to make something lasting of it, And what will be the fallout with their loved ones if they do that? So emotional, just beautiful. Then, of course, there has to be Forever Your Rogue by Erin Langston. I've talked about this one excessively. There is an audiobook that just came out yesterday. So please, please check this one out on audio if you have been waiting for it. But this is probably my favorite historical I read this year. Definitely a 6-star read. I loved it so much. And this one is our rogue, Nate Travers. He gets roped into pretending to be Cora's fiance to help her keep her kids because she has in-laws who are trying to take her children away from her and get in control of her son, who is the heir. Is he going to be a future duke or a future, I can't remember, but her son is an heir, but he's only 5. So there's a lot of years ahead where someone could be in control of his money. So she has her brother who is her lawyer, and he's trying to help out. He's her barrister, and he suggests this. And so she blackmails her friend's brother, who owes her one, to help her with this. Now, Nate wants nothing to do with this. He wants to keep living his carefree lifestyle, but he gets guilted into doing this. And it's only supposed to be for 2 weeks, which, first off, I'm like, how is 2 weeks going to be enough to convince these people? And in the process of pretending to be her fiance, he, of course, not only falls for her, but falls for her 2 sweet children. So this book is absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. And there is crazy chemistry between these two. And it's definitely like good girl, bad boy. Also, there's so much at stake for Cora. So that makes, when she finally will give in to certain like physical things, like it is high stakes for her to do that. And yeah, it makes it so heady when they finally are doing anything together, because like what she's risking to have it. And I love it. So yeah, if you haven't read Forever Your Rogue yet, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Hop into it. Then we have one that I'll just briefly talk on because I talk about it all the time, but I love the spice in this book. I don't even care. It's, of course, Heartless by Elsie Silver. Y'all, it's so good. Okay, it's so good. And the way that Cade and Willa play off of each other, if you don't know, this is a nanny romance, cowboy romance, age gap, grumpy sunshine, and Willa is there to take care of his son Luke for the summer, and Cade is so upset with how attracted he is to her, and he's just fighting it, but Willa just does not let him fight it for long. She's always poking at him and needling at him and trying to get him to give in to the goodness, and when he finally does, it is so satisfying. And what makes this, like, why, like, because there's some dirty smut in this one, okay, like, it does get really sexy. But why it doesn't feel empty to me is, number one, like, there is good build up to this. This doesn't happen quickly. Once Cade, like, pops the cork, as we should say, and Willa is like, oh, what does this mean? Like, and he's like, woman, I didn't just break my dry spell on a whim. And I'm not just risking it with my son's nanny because I'm not sure of what I want. And he's so, like, he's willing to be, like, vulnerable with her when he's not vulnerable with anybody else, where he's like, I'm scared that this won't work. I'm scared that I'm too old for you and that it won't work out. But damn if I'm not going to try for something that I want. And because he is so straight up with her, like, from the jump that they have sex, he's like, girl, this isn't a one-time thing for me. I have control over myself. I wouldn't have started this if I didn't want to finish it, And so that's what makes this one, like, stand above for me in, honestly, a series that I think eventually did become more about the smut than about the relationships. I know, but I'm saying it. But this one still holds its place for me. I have never wavered about this book. I have read this ad nauseum at this point, okay? This is my most annotated book that I have done. It's been requested so many times, and it is perfection. Okay, it's so good. So, yeah, there's a reason why Heartless is this hyped, and I can understand if you don't want to be in all the other series. I suggest you start with Flawless, because I do love Flawless as well, but if you just wanted to start with Heartless, you could. Just read Heartless, and once you fall in love with everyone, then you can try the other ones, but highly recommend. All right, just 2 left for this one, which this list has basically become my 6-star reads of the year. There's The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. This is going to be on so many people's favorites. This is another hero who he is actually choosing to be celibate because of his basketball career. He doesn't want, number one, any women to be able to claim that he's like baby daddy. He doesn't want to be distracted from his game. He has a goal. He has a plan. This is what he's doing, and he's not getting distracted. The big wrench that gets thrown into this is that his sister, Stevie, asks if her friend Indy, who has just found out her fiance was cheating on her, or her boyfriend. Now I can't remember. But anyway, her long-term relationship, she found out, isn't working, and she has to move out of her home. And so she ends up being able to stay with Ryan because Stevie is now like living with her boyfriend and she doesn't want to put her out. So she asks her brother, hey, can she stay with you? And he agrees, but he's very reluctant. And he also is like, we're going to have a timeline. You're going to have a plan for finding a place and we're going to get you out of here because I can't have you living with me for that long. But once she's under his roof and he's seen her and fallen for her, he has a difficult time wanting her to leave. And the way that the chemistry between these two builds up, it's so good. And by the time he's ready to crack for her, it is so satisfying. And this is another one of like, he was hesitant, he was waiting, he wasn't sure. But then once he's sure, he's like, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm not flinching. We're going for it. And I just love that type of man so much. I love it. So yes, the steam in that one is next level. Okay. All right. Now the last lovely book that I have to share, and honestly, I would say this is the same for most of the books in this series as well. I think that the sex and the steam is handled very beautifully. But this one is from this year, so we'll share that. There is Grimm and Barrett by Juliet Cross. This is the 6th book in the Savoy Sisters, or Stay a Spell, as it is more commonly known. And this is between Henry and Clara. Now, this is one where the spice does come pretty early in this book, but honestly, these two have been edging us since the beginning. Like, Clara had put her interest in Henry out from the beginning of this series. We've been waiting. We've been panting for it. So I think that when Juliet just gives it to us good pretty quickly, we deserve it. We're ready for it. So I ain't mad about it. That's what I say. I ain't mad about it. And I just adore these two so much. So there is still a plot in this one, there really is, but this is just a lot of us getting to see Henry and Clara be together. And this one also has like a virgin hero, and so it is like so meaningful right from the beginning with these two. I just loved it. So yeah, this one I think is so sweet. And again, I think all the books in this series, that their sexual relationship is paced very well. And it just feels so intimate whenever there are those scenes in here. So there you go. Those are 10 books that I think are steamy and emotional, or the steam is emotional in them. Please let me know some of your favorites. This is by no means a completely extensive list. Like I said, it's mostly ones from this year and a few that are like all-time favorites. But for me, this is the type of love I'm really looking for. So if you have some you could suggest to me that maybe you know I haven't read, I would love to hear that. Because again, I still am fine with it being spicy. It can be a little nasty. I'm the queen of kinkiness here. I just really am looking for it to mean something these days. That's what I want. So let me know what your recommendations are, and I'll see you next time. Bye.